All right, so this is the deal. This is the busiest fight week in UFC history. You've heard this before. 3 cards in 3 nights. It all culminates Saturday night, UFC 194, the much anticipated Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor fight. We thought that we would do something a little different this time around. We wanted to give you a taste of what's going down each and every single day here in Las Vegas because, to be quite honest, it's madness. It's our version of March Madness. So it all actually started yesterday, Tuesday, here in Sin City. Our man Shaun Al-Shatti of MMAfighting.com was there. We're also being joined, by the way, by the man in the hat, Chuck Mindenhall, who finally has showed his face at one of these UFC events. So each and every night we'll be recapping it all. It's going to be a lot of fun because today there was no event, but there was still a lot to discuss. Tomorrow it's the Paige and Sage show, etc., etc. So guys, let's first start off with you, Shaun, because you were there. Both Chuck and I got here yesterday night. You were there for the open media workout for the Fight Night card that's airing on Fight Pass on Thursday evening. What was the big takeaway? Was it, in fact, the Sage and Paige show?
I mean, it pretty much was the Sage and Paige show. They got the biggest crowd response. They really seemed to take to the crowd the most. But I would say Cody Pfister kind of stole the show with his scrum there. I think he let a lot of people know who he was there. A lot of people came into this weekend not really knowing much about him, and just within 8 minutes, just kind of showing a little bit of his personality, he let some people know what was going on.
I think Aljamain Sterling kind of not stole the show, but kind of nudged his way in there. He wasn't even supposed to be a part of it. Gets on the schedule and then tells the world that he's a free agent after this fight. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, he really did just push for it. Like he specifically asked to be on there, and no one ever wants to be on these open workouts. It's just a nuisance. But he asked to be on there. He did a longer workout than anybody else of the entire day. And then, yeah, he really just laid it all out there in the scrum. He's a free agent. He's really just taking a gamble here, gambling on himself that he's going to win and he's going to enter this free agency with really a lot of momentum as a back.
So it's one thing for a guy like Phil Davis to do that. Of course, Benson Henderson, recently we've been saying that guy should do it more often. Is Aljamain Sterling at that point? Is this a smart move for him?
I don't know if he's quite at that point. I mean, those other guys had been around a little while. I do feel like, though, he's such a character on social media and everything else. He's very outspoken. He engages a lot. That he has a certain personality. It translates very well for him. So I don't think he's quite to that level, though, honestly.
So you think it's a mistake?
What am I to say?
Hard
I'll
to
say yes.
Okay.
Just to give you
Man in the hat getting a little sassy with us here, and it's only Wednesday. Jeez, we got a long way.
It was a long day today, man.
It was. Let me ask you about this. This is Paige's. Obviously, it's her first main event. She's fighting Rose, a very tough fight, Rose Namajunas, and also Sage isn't in the co-main event. I know this kind of bothers Michael Chiesa a little bit that he's getting more attention, but he's getting a lot of attention in this fight. So, do you feel like they're overwhelmed by it all? Do you feel like it's getting to them at all, or are they ready for this moment?
Who, Sage and
Sage and Paige, yeah.
That is so hard to say.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed, I wouldn't say so. I mean, Paige seems to really take things in stride. She doesn't really seem to make things too big. Sage, I mean, it's hard to get a read on that guy. He just smiles at everything. Like, I've never really, to be able to take a steroid accusation and just be like, oh, well, thank you for the compliment, mister. Like, that's an incredible response to that I've never heard before. So it's hard to get a read on him, but he really seems to just be enjoying the ride for what it is.
I will say, though, I think Cody Pfister has done a great job of playing that foil, right? The juxtaposition there between the two Texas boys has been a lot of fun to watch. He is a massive, I don't know if you've looked at the odds, but he's a massive underdog. Do you know what the odds are?
I don't know the odds.
12 to 1.
I think it's 12 to 1 right now. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so.
But what a kook, man. I mean, he's kind of like they're showing the embedded, and he's always got the bedhead thing going on. He's just so low-key and driving around his truck or whatever. I mean, it's just, and then you see him today, like he goes out for the weigh-ins, and he's just making faces on there. He just looks like a normal guy, really, but in terms of his body, you know. So then here comes Sage with his 8-pack and everything, and his smile. It's just it couldn't be more mismatched. And I even tweeted, I was like, there might be a dark horse who sort of emerges as the star from the show. And it might be somebody like Cody Pfister. Who knows? It just depends on how he looks in there.
Let's not get crazy with that.
I'm saying it could happen.
It is interesting, though. Dana White recently said in interviews last week that, in his opinion, Sage and Paige are, two future stars to come. You have such a big card on Saturday. Why not put them on that card as opposed to the Fight Pass card? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm nitpicking here, but if all eyes are really going to be on Saturday night, was it a mistake to put them on this Fight Pass card as opposed to 194?
I don't think it was a mistake. I actually kind of really like the setup that we have here because it is such a big week. It feels kind of like our Super Bowl. And you start out with the prospects, and then on Friday you get to the contenders, and then it all culminates in the champions. I kind of like that progression. That's a really neat thing that they set up. So I don't think it was a mistake.
All right, then earlier today, here in this very room, in the media room, we had the Ultimate Media Day, and this was it was really for the fighters that have kind of been flowing under the radar, really. You know what I mean? Like guys like Tony Ferguson, guys like Joe Lozon and Evan Dunham, and to a degree, Jacare and Romero. You had a chance to speak
Isn't
to
that
some.
crazy? Like
Yes.
that those guys could be under the radar.
Yeah.
That tells you about this week a little bit.
So anyone in particular that said something that stood out, any interviews, any conversations, anything you want to share?
Nothing was crazy, I feel like most of them were sort of just trotting through. They're trying to get through it. This is an obligation. But I will say that I talked to Max Holloway, and it was sort of interesting to get his take on attitude in general, because here's a guy who's won 7 straight fights. His last loss was Conor McGregor. Now we're forming this huge thing around Conor McGregor that he's a part of. And I was just asking him, like, when you see this, do you want to become more outspoken? Do you want to try to be the guy, because he should be in the conversation right about now to get that title shot. So just hearing him sort of reply on that a little bit and seeing him kind of stick to his guns about, I am who I am, and that sort of thing. Honestly, like, there was nothing that really stood out to me. It just looked like a lot of people were kind of happy to be involved in this event. You know what I mean? A couple of them a little awestruck maybe to be out there, but ultimately it was kind of a cool thing. It wasn't, I was worried it was going to be like a rat race in there today, but it was pretty good.
And also, I think it's good to give some of those guys and women some shine, but I do get the sense that they're all, for the most part, happy to let Conor and Jose take all the attention away. I will say Tony Ferguson, I don't know if you guys spoke to Tony Ferguson. He was fired up with the sunglasses, the things that he was saying. That guy, I thought he stole the show, at least for that media day.
Yeah, I agree. I only got to speak with him very, very briefly because it was a madhouse in there, but he is an intense guy right now. Like, really feels like he is coming into his own, and this is his moment to really steal whatever this crazy weekend, and he is supremely ready for this, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens out of that.
And also for any media people out there who aren't here and fans, and correct me if you guys feel otherwise, it feels like sort of a Super Bowl type of environment here, or even like a Pacquiao Mayweather, where you're just kind of walking around and you'll bump into like a Brian Stan or Chael Sonnen is here, Gilbert Melendez, and also, I mean, the amount of media that's here and the big name media guns are out, like Chuck Mindenhall. They're all here. It does.
It's big when I come to Bear Fed.
But it's Wednesday, and it does have that feel. Even though it's sort of quiet in the casino, it does feel more so than ever, in my opinion, like a big deal.
It feels a little bit like the calm before the storm, like something like that. You are seeing, like you mentioned, you're seeing people just about everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's, oh, hey, there's so-and-so. There's John Anik. Hey, but, everybody's here. Like, we've had a chance to see a lot of the media guys that we don't usually see all in one place. So it's been kind of cool that way. But also just the cornermen, seeing Ray Longo out there with his big chain. I mean, everything, just people just all over the place. It does have like a big feel to it, but gradual, like it's going to try to escalate. And I feel like that's why, hitting on Shaun's point, I kind of like the setup. I like seeing the 2 prospects that just are kind of right now flying on buzz alone. We haven't seen enough of them. I guess with a little bit of Paige, we've seen what she can do, but for Sage, it's a little bit like, let's wait and see. But what a fun, it's got a big feel, but it's a fun feel. It's like this sense of pending, that's just kind of stretching out right now.
All right, so let's talk about the press conference. That was the other big thing today. It was Conor and Aldo, of course, Weidman, Rockhold, and Edgar Mendez. I think there was a lot of anticipation for this press conference, but to many people's surprise, Conor shows up in a polo, and it all just kind of felt very subdued. What was your takeaway?
Subdued is the right word. I thought, his whole Conor McGregor's Zen approach was unique. I didn't anticipate that, honestly. Maybe he realized, because he's a very smart guy. Maybe he just realized, we've already done the other thing. We've already done the other angle.
Curveball?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe he's trying to just show that he's got different layers. I don't know. But I will say that it did feel very subdued. And it was interesting because I think it was you who, half an hour in, were the first person to ask Luke Rockhold a question. To me, that was like, wow, what is going on? That fight is so good. And just to see those guys just waiting to even be talked to, it's a crazy sort of setup, like when you think about it, because I mean that fight has every chance. For UFC, what was it, 189, right, when McDonald and Lawler were doing their thing. I mean, they were sort of overlooked in that process, and look what they did. I get the feeling that's what's going to happen here. You get the feeling that neither one of those guys is going to budge, which is going to make for a crazy fight.
What did you think of the press conference?
I agree, subdued is the perfect word for it. And it was strange because there wasn't really much of a crowd presence. Like, they set it up inside the MGM Grand Garden, this massive setup, and it was virtually empty. And you're right, Conor was taking a very zen-like approach, but also, you know, I'm thinking about it, and how long have we been doing this at this point? This has been a narrative for about a year at this point. What is there left to say? Like there's not much left to really fire up everybody. So I feel like at this point, we're all kind of just in this waiting mode. We're waiting for this week to progress and kind of, like he's saying, just slowly pick up steam. And I feel like it's really going to culminate in something really unique.
In a way, it reminds me of UFC 145, Jones and Evans. Like, by the time we got to that fight after a year of build-up, there wasn't much else to say. And that press conference before the fight was kind of similarly subdued, right? I mean, it just kind of felt like, all right, we're ready, right?
The difference with that one, I think, wasn't Che Mills on the co-main event that night. It's just missing something there, you know?
What about Luke Rockhold? Like, by the time we finally got to him, it's like he's trying. I don't know if he's trying too hard or if he's just really pissed off and agitated. What do you make of his demeanor? I think it's very interesting.
Well, he's always sort of like that. He focuses so hard that he comes across as very serious and literal almost. In moments where you're like, hey, you're sort of boring us with your talk, because he starts to sort of break down as, here's what I'm going to do, and it's my belt. I know this is very, very literal. It's just who he is, though. You know what I mean? I mean, he's one of those guys who's just that casual, almost psychotically casual. Like, you're like, wow, there's a lot going on, but you're only catching these little things he's saying, you know. But I do feel like they're confident. Both those guys are just so full of confidence. It just makes for a crazy fight, you know. Just
Bird and Magic.
It really is.
Bird and Magic. I'm sticking to that.
Wrong with that? Yeah, I can see that.
East versus West, two guys in their prime. They like each other, they respect each other, but deep down they can't stomach the idea of losing to each other. And how about this, guys? How about this big thing that happened to me today? I was given this gift.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this is a custom Canadian, and yes, could you believe it? In the shocker of the day, they spelled Helwani and Ariel right. How about that? Yes, everything. Reebok, it's all there. Thank you very much. So day 1 and 2 in the books, right? Yeah, day 1 and 2, I guess we can call it that. And tomorrow, this is what we got tomorrow. We've got open workouts for UFC 194. We've got the weigh-ins for the tough finale, and then we've got the Fight Pass card at the Cosmopolitan. Gonna be fun. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. A lot of stuff today. You can check it out on MMAfight.com. Of course, their articles, my videos. See you Thursday after the Fight Pass card. Thanks for watching.